go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation. This was sacred to God. Now is the time to act. This is exactly why I need some action from my people.
All right. The ReAwaken America Tour. So I didn't plan on this happening. My wife and I, when we heard about the lockdowns coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma, coming to New York, coming to America, I thought I needed to sue the mayor of Tulsa to keep the city of Tulsa open and to turn my building into a church because the churches were closed, and then to host town halls. And pretty soon, the first town hall was kind of awkward. It was Aaron and I. There was two of us, and we called it a town hall, but it was just Aaron and I griping about facts. And then it grew to 4 or 5, then there was 100, and then General Flynn came for a town hall, and there was like 1,000, and then we're all here, and it just keeps growing. But recently, I've started getting more direct fan mail. And so the New York Attorney General has sent me a letter, which I haven't opened yet, but I'm super excited to open it up. So I want to introduce our next speaker. This is our attorney, our good friend here, Tricia Lindsay. Come on up here. This is attorney Tricia Lindsay, and she's going to open up the fan mail and then do a great presentation for you. Now, she's an attorney, and I haven't opened this. It's still sealed, so I'm going to let her open it up, and she's going to read it to you. And I'm going to go over here, and I hope it's exciting. Like, thanks for coming to New York, buddy. Yes, we're excited for you. Okay, I'll pass the mic to you and get out of your way here. Okay, I'm going over here again. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what this means, so here we go.
Oh, wow, it's a long one. Okay, so here we go. George Michael Flynn and Clay Clark. As New York's top law enforcement officer, I have significant concerns that the ReAwaken America's Tour's upcoming event at the Cornerstone Church in Batavia, New York on August 12th and 13th could spur extremist or racially motivated violence. These concerns center around the event's proposed dates, which coincide with the 5-year anniversary of the deadly Unite the rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, and past extremist statements made by yourselves and the other featured speakers on the tour. Really? I am especially concerned about featured speakers' regular allusions to white nationalist ideals connected to the Great Replacement theory, a conspiracy theory that warns of white genocide in efforts to replace native-born Americans with immigrants. They are serious, yeah. The theory is frequently linked to violent actions, including the racially motivated mass shooting this is ridiculous. That killed 10 people at a Tops Friendly Market store in Buffalo? Especially in light of this racist mass shooting and other recent episodes of racially motivated violence in New York and throughout the country, the Office of the Attorney General is concerned that such rhetoric can contribute to violent or unlawful conduct at the ReAwaken America Tour's upcoming event. She never cited anything that was said at the ReAwaken Tour. Everything that she's talking about are different events that are taking place around the country that has nothing to do with what we're doing. This is bait and switch. This is mind control. This is stated and people believe it. She could take this and push it up. Well, let me be nice. All right. The Office of the Attorney General writes to remind you that New York law prohibits racially motivated violence, harassment, or interference with another person in the exercise of their civil rights. So we don't have civil rights? We don't have rights? New York Civil Rights Law, Section 79-N, empowers the Office of the Attorney General to investigate acts of violence. Intimidation, threats, or harassment directed at people based on a belief or perception regarding an individual's race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, race, religious practice, age, disability, or sexual orientation. That's interesting because this letter seems like that's exactly what she's doing. It seems to me like she's using the laws of New York State to harass everyone that's at the ReAwaken America tour. Because the last time I checked, we had freedom of religion, right? We had the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. We have the right to protest, right? And you're calling white a group of people that are gathering together white nationalists based upon the fact that they are white? Aren't you doing the same thing, Miss Letitia James? You might need to go back to law school. And I think she might need to be investigated at this point. In addition to actual damages, any person who violates the statute can be held liable for $5,000 in penalties for each violation. How many people are here? Because I say we multiply times the people that are attending, because she had violated everyone's rights in here. So thank you for laying out the demand. She just wrote the settlement demand. Additionally, New York civil rights law, section 40-C, prohibits discriminating against another person in the exercise of their civil rights. She continues, including their right to peacefully protest based on similar protected characteristics. Finally, New York executive law, section 63-12, empowers the Office of the Attorney General to take action against any business engaged in significant fraud or illegality, including the violation of New York's civil rights laws. Well, I guess she just empowered us to take action against her. The Office of the Attorney General has a duty to protect New Yorkers from extremist and racially motivated violence. We stand ready to investigate any violation of the laws above, and, if necessary, to enforce them to the fullest extent available. Is she threatening us? Is that what she's doing? On paper, in writing? You are therefore instructed to take all necessary steps to ensure that the event complies fully with the requirements of New York civil rights laws and all other applicable state and federal statutes. Your cooperation in ensuring a peaceful and law-abiding event will be greatly appreciated. Sincerely, Letitia James. Hear me, Miss Letitia James. Hear me, all you nefarious, tyrannical government leaders. America will never bow to anyone except God. Never. Romans 13:1 says, no authority. There is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, if anyone has infiltrated that does not stand on God's laws and his orders, they must be removed. Do you understand? We have the right to stand and speak for our civil rights and to protect our own. The very documents that this country is founded upon protects our rights to speak, to assemble, to practice our religion. That is what she's coming against. How dare you? This is an area that you don't belong in. You have no authority in this realm. And that is what we have to understand as people of God and as people in this country. America is a democratic republic. It's God, the people, the government. That is it. That is the order. And if we understand that and understand who we are and whose we are and by whose authority we stand under, we will be fine and we cannot be defeated. We will not be defeated. About a year and a half ago, or probably more, I started saying that they are coming for our rights. Our Fourth Amendment rights. It started with the bodily integrity. They invaded our bodies. They invaded our bodies. That's the Fourth Amendment. They did it without due process. 14th Amendment. Then they started terminating people from jobs or forcing people or coercing them to go and take on a poison and put it in their bodies and to stand against their gods. Churches closed, right, under the suggestion of government because they have aligned themselves with government because they have taken on 501c3. How do you make a pact with the devil and enter into contract with them and expect them to act like an angel? It will never happen. It will never happen. We have to regain our sovereignty. We have to regain our authority. We have to regain our knowledge in order to save our family. So the Fourth Amendment goes, right? The 14th Amendment, no equal protection anymore. If you're unvaccinated, you're not protected, but if you're vaccinated, you're fine, right? So that's gone. And now they're invading our families, telling us what to do. They're removing the parental rights from their children. I said this too. Take your children out to schools. Take them out. The Harvards, the NYUs, the Yales, they're not the only ones out there. Why do you want the devil educating your children? They need us. We don't need them. They are teaching everything that goes contrary to God and what he stands for. And what we stand for and what your family values are about. So why are you entrusting them to your children to them? So our First Amendment right as parents to the care, custody, and control of our children, and to determine their health care, and to determine what they're taught and how they are raised is stripped away. You can't even speak out. They're forcing agendas onto our children that we are vehemently against. If you want to live your life, live it. That's fine. But leave our children alone. It's none of your business. So our First Amendment is gone. We can't speak. First Amendment gone, right? And now they're going into homes, raiding homes. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand the erosion and what's happening little by little? The 13th Amendment is in full effect, especially in New York. In full effect. They're invading our homes. The home is where a person, that is the greatest expectation of privacy in a person's home. When government agencies and authorities start showing up at your doors unannounced on suppositions just because, no, you need probable cause to enter my home. You need a full warrant to enter my home. Not because you think something may be in there. Absolutely not. And if we allow them to continue to do that, if they do it on one level, they're coming for everyone. They're coming for everyone. And let me tell you something. This whole violence situation, America has always had its issues, right, with violence. Certain states have always had their issues. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there's a lot of propaganda happening. The increase of violent acts and news stories that are being shown on television are to add to the fear that they have spent the last 2 to 3 years pushing into people because they are trying to justify taking away our firearms and our rights. So the Second Amendment is under attack because it's interesting how they are saying that the IRS can be armed. They're arming the IRS agents, but they're saying that we, law-abiding citizens, should not have firearms. They're doing it so that when they show up at your door to take you against your will or your children without due process, without probable cause, you cannot stand in the defense of your family. Don't fall for the okie doke. We have to stand together. If we give up one amendment, one right, we lose everything. There is a time to laugh, a time to cry, a time to speak, and a time to be quiet. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. This is no time for peace. And when I say peace, I don't mean to sit by and peacefully just let people erode your rights. I'm not inciting you to go do anything crazy. What I'm telling you, I'm inciting you to do is to stand up for your rights. Get your information, understand the laws upon which you stand under. The founding fathers of this country, the United States Constitution, was based upon the Declaration of Independence. We have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The government is supposed to protect our rights. Those rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If the government fails to protect those rights, the citizens have a right to revolt. We have a right to replace those government leaders. We have a right to unseat them. And that is what we have to do. We have to unseat them. New Yorkers have been under a psychosis for quite some time. The New York that I knew years ago, I don't recognize it anymore, especially downstate. This thing that's in the governor's mansion, I try not to mention names all the time because I think when you mention names, you give power, right, to things. But we know who I'm talking about. The thing that a particular church in Brooklyn surrendered their pulpit to and gave them the nerve to have this demon go stand in the church on the pulpit and say that she's recruiting apostles for the vaccine. She took the cross off and put a V on her chest and stood in the church and said that I'm recruiting. You're my apostles for the vaccine. Woe unto that preacher, because he's going to have a lot to answer for. A lot to answer for. This woman is setting up internment camps. She's setting up what is pretty much a concentration camp. How many of you know about her regulation and her law that she tried to pass that just got struck down? I mean, you have to think about it. This regulation, this law said that at any moment, if the governor or in her single opinion, his or her single opinion, thought that you are a health risk or have been exposed to an infectious disease, a communicable disease, that they can come to your home and arrest you, take you out of your home, and send you to a facility and detain you there for an unlimited amount of time, without due process, without probable cause. Or she can require that you remain in your home. And while you're under detention, they dictate what you can do. So they can take your phones, they can take your computers, they can lock you off of every piece of communication with anyone that's around. Tell me what happens when they come and take you. What happens to your children? Tell me what happens to your children. Into the system. And we all know what happens there, right? Anybody blind to what happens there? To the amount of children that have disappeared in the system, to the amount of children that have been trafficked through the system, right? To the amount of children that they're using medical neglect and all these made-up laws and made-up conditions to take people's children. We have to stand. We cannot find the leaders that support and that represent your values, your morals. You have to find them, and that's who you have to put into office. She is not one. We cannot afford it. Don't fall for this whole bait and switch where they've released the mandates and all of a sudden COVID has disappeared. All of a sudden everything is gone. It'll be back after Election Day, depending on who you put in office. The wrong person back in office is going to be back in full effect. And all our lives are going to be even worse than now. We have to stand. We have to fight. We have to continue to push. Do you understand? We have to fight. The reason the churches closed, in 1954, the IRS passed this act and it was about separation of church and state. They wanted the church separated from government so that there would be no godly influence in public policy. No godly influence in the government. This country was founded by people running from religious persecution. It was founded, our founding fathers. It's all based upon biblical principles. So how in the world are you now going to come and say the church is no longer involved in the government that we set up? That doesn't make any sense. But it was because they knew what was coming. So now what happens is all the churches churches that have 501c3s cannot say anything about public policy, cannot say anything about the government. That's not a good situation. It's not. We have to understand we are standing under the wrong authority. We have forgotten about whose authority we are supposed to be standing under and who has given us this authority. It's time to stand up. We cannot sit back. We cannot allow this. David asked God, do I pursue the invading army? And God said, pursue. If you pursue, you will recover. You will recover. We have to fight for our families. We have to fight for our children. We have to fight for our homes. We have to fight for our country, fight for our beliefs. We cannot sit down and allow this invading force to just enter in and just take over. Know whose you are and who we are. These uncircumcised Philistines cannot stand against the armies of the living God. Know whose you are and whose you are. Thank you.
Okay, that's Tricia Lindsay. Now, Tricia, I need, before you leave, I got a couple questions for you. Just asking for a friend. Suppose a friend of mine, hypothetically, was hosting a tour or an event, and he got a letter, or she got a letter, from an attorney general like that. Is there any sort of legal action that could be taken?
This is harassment. They work for us. I won't even tell you some of the acts that we have on our books and federal statutes that are there. I mean, we even have a statute, I forget the number, but it's called conspiracy against rights. And it includes government leaders. If they conspire with other people to deny a person of their rights, and that leads to loss of life, thank you. Yes, that is what it is. That is what it is. I can't tell you the consequences and the damages. It goes all the way up to the death penalty.
Now, real quick, you can't leave yet. Are you taking on new clients?
Absolutely. We're on the front lines. Absolutely. And my dear colleague, Mr. Renz, Tom Renz, we're going to be working because the fight is great, but we know whose authority we stand under. We are pursuing this invading army, this new militancy that has moved into our communities that is trying to get us to hate each other and to separate from each other. They will not win. We will resist and we will subdue them and we will abolish any government that does not represent God's rights, our rights, and God's laws. Thank you.
So suppose that I specifically want to pursue the Attorney General of New York. Will you represent me and we?
Absolutely.
Now, to fight this legal battle, we're going to need some money, okay? So, Aaron Antis, grab the bags. Tricia Lindsay, it's happening. We're going after New York's Attorney General. It's happening. We will not back down. You got a new client. There you go. Aaron, let's pull out the bags. All right, seriously, I will go. I sued the mayor of Tulsa. I have no problem going after your Attorney General. I fear only the Lord. Proverbs 9:10, baby. Again, that's the attorney right there, Tricia Lindsay. Here, pass that to her. All right? And again, if you're watching from the mainstream media, I have no problem. It's only a 17-hour drive to visit New York, okay? 17 hours. Okay, let's pass this. Now, General Flynn, can you come up here real quick, sir? Okay, we're going to go on offense. So, Aaron, can you grab the bags? And if you would like to support this legal fight, we're going to pass this to Tricia. General Flynn, why can we not afford to give ground right now, sir?
Yeah, there is absolutely no ground that we can give up. We are at a... You're going to go ahead and right down here, right, Clay, for setting up. So, hey, this is such an important time in our country, and you hear the people that we bring in here, and some of them have never, ever been involved in politics. I've never been involved in politics. I couldn't stand it, but I understood it, and I learned about it, and now we're all involved in it. I don't care when somebody comes up to me and says, I don't do that political thing, or I don't vote because my vote doesn't count. Bullshit. You have got to get out and do that. You've got to get out. You have got to get out. You have got to get involved in this country. The ground that we are on is our ground, and you've got to get out. We're watching these primaries around the country right now. Even in the GOP side, we see cheating on both sides, right? Where we are winning with America First candidates is when we overwhelm at the voting. When we overwhelm at the voting, at the polling. Get involved. Get involved. In Virginia, we learned in the Virginia races this past year, where for the first time in 20 years, we have an America First legislature for the first time in 20 years. What we learned when we went to Virginia and we did an assessment of the ground was we only had 20%. About 20% of the volunteer positions were filled by the GOP, only 20%. So no wonder we had 20 years of liberalism and progressivism and, frankly, Marxism. So what we did in about a 4-month period of time, we went from 20% to 90%. And we got people activated, we got people involved, we got people engaged. And frankly, all I'm looking for is people who love this country. That's all we want. We want people who love America. We want people who cherish our values, who cherish our Constitution, and who believe in the principles that this country was founded upon. That's what we want. That's what we want. And that's what we'll get if you get involved. You know, I just stood out there for a couple hours taking photos and meeting nice people. And a lovely young lady came up and said, I heard what you say, and now I'm on the school board. I mean, that's it. It's like I said yesterday for those that were listening. I'm looking for one person, just one to get involved, one to make a difference, one to make that change in this country. I don't care whether it's in your town, in your county, in the state, or at the federal level. We need people to get involved. We cannot be apathetic about what it is that we're doing any longer. Can't be apathetic. We can't sit there and go, I'm going to let somebody else do it. When you leave here from this weekend, I want you to get out and I want you to think about it. When you wake up Monday morning, you wake up Tuesday morning, you wake up Wednesday morning, and you start thinking, am I doing enough for my country? And you don't have to worry about being the superstar in Washington, D.C. Not everybody can be the superstar, right? Everybody, or at that level. But what you can do is you can look and you can see in your churches, right? And I'm a Catholic, and I have written about the Pope. So any Catholics in here, right? And so I have taken on the Pope. I've written a book about it. And I say that with all deference to my own faith, because all humans are, we're filled with, right? We're filled with mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to all be perfect. But another person that I met said what they did was they were hearing in this case, their priest talking about how bad the president was, and now talking about Donald Trump. So they got their entire prayer group to start having prayers or masses on Sunday for President Trump. And they invested in their church. They invested in their church a year's worth of masses. So guess what? If you want us to continue to participate in this diocese, this is what you're going to do. Now, again, this is about our country. This is about engaging our country. And if all you can do is pray, then pray. But I know the value of people. I know the value of everybody. I have lived and breathed it. And I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. And I know when I look at somebody and I say, what do you do? Give me a little bit of background. It takes 5 minutes for me to figure out if you're maximizing your potential. And people, believe me, most people will live an entire lifetime and never maximize their potential because they're just afraid. They're afraid to step out. Right? That idea of fear. And I don't want, I tell people, be fearless. We need to be fearless about who we are as Americans. And when we are together, when we do join together and we do work together, it certainly helps. But as individuals, we're going to conquer this. Because as an individual, you have to conquer your own emotions. You got to conquer your own weaknesses. Okay, everybody would come to me and I'd say, tell me what your strengths are and your weaknesses are. They'd immediately start talking about their strengths. And now I could tell in a second what their weaknesses were. Understand your weaknesses. And your weaknesses, most of us, is we just don't want to get involved. We just don't want to go and step up. Right? We just don't want to do it. But now we don't have a choice. Now we do not have a choice. Okay? We don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You cannot say, I am not going to get involved in politics. You can't go home and go, I don't do that political thing. That's for those people over there. That's why we're in trouble. We're in deep, deep trouble because we have allowed ourselves. I don't blame these people that are in office. We put them there. We put them there, and I don't, our screwed up election systems, our screwed up election processes, we have allowed this thing to just go into a tailspin. It's broken. It's one of the most sacrosanct privileges that we have in this country is the ability to vote. And the reason why is because the least of us and those that are the most, right? Those that you look at, the muckety mucks, I call them when I was a kid, right? Those people that live over there in the hill. We're equal. We're equal on that day. At that moment, we are equal. And our founders gave us that equality because they knew that there were people that had a lot and there were people that didn't have much. And they said to be equal in this government called a republic, through our Constitution, we're going to make everybody equal in the eyes of God, and we're going to give you the ability to vote. And when we have, across this country right now, in our primaries, this is an off-year election. But this is typical. And if I get fired up about something, it's this data. It's this stat. We have, in our primaries, we have, on average, about 30% of people who can vote go and vote in the primaries because everybody goes, I'll wait until the general election. And guess what? In the general election, it's only like 60%. 60. Not 100%. Where we are winning right now is because we're overwhelming them at the polls. We're overwhelming them on election day. You guys and gals, you get out there and overwhelm them. Take those numbers and turn them from 30 in primaries to 100. Turn that from 60 on the general election to 100. Get out. Do not have an excuse after the fact and say, well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Never live that way. Do not live that way. Do not say, I wish I'd done that or I wish I'd done this. Start today and start to figure out what it is that you're going to do. Okay? That's enough. God bless.
Now, folks, so here's the deal. In New York, we're going from defense to offense. We're going after your attorney general. It's going to happen. If you know anything about me, I'm very persistent and very consistent. Might not be very smart, but I'm intense. Like we're in a tent right now. We're intense, okay? So this woman, this professional, this lawyer is going to be representing we the people against your attorney general. And I would like for her to explain. I hadn't opened that letter before, so I'd like for her to explain what we're going to do. And just for clarity, it's on camera, whatever. Not a dime of the income that comes in or revenue. I'm not going to see any of that. It's all going to go to fight the legal bills, okay? We're going to set up a landing page, but we are going after this person, okay? That's what we're going to do because this is absolutely an attempt to stop this event from happening. And this is a peaceful gathering of people where we serve our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I'm not going to be nice. We're going to move forward, okay? So, Tricia Lindsay, explain to us what is the process, what's the step, what do we need to do?
Well, first of all, initially, I'm going to write a letter in response to Letitia James and see what she says, just to let her know that she has completely usurped her authority and she has no rights. And she actually is harassing the people that are here. She's harassing us, right? The same rights that she's saying that we have to adhere to, she has to adhere to. She's not absolved of the law. She's not above the law. And so she has gone down. I really wonder what had gotten into her, why she wrote this. But what happens is that the powers that be, or the people that are in leadership, they are under the assumption, and many times they're right, unfortunately, that people don't know their rights, right? And so as soon as they write a letter threatening, harassing or whatever, they feel like people are going to step back and stand off. Now, she was very careful because she hasn't done anything to completely stop it, at least that we know. But if she has gotten involved and did anything to cause the disruption and the fact that 3 weeks before this event was to happen, the venues closed or things like that. I mean, it's tortious interference with a contract, right? And so there are so many different statutes and laws that we can stand under that she has violated. And so it's to take a look, sit down, watch, and see what she has done and to figure out what she has done and what she hasn't done. Because oftentimes when people are so self-empowered, because she keeps saying that under the authority of the Office of the Attorney General. The Office of the Attorney General has to operate within certain confines. But oftentimes when they're self-empowered, they often make mistakes and they become so arrogant that they don't cover their tracks as goodly, as properly as they think they should, right? And as well as they do. So what I do want to say to you is, before I leave the stage, is that what we're doing and what you're doing is you're stepping into the place of the magistrate and you're taking on that role. And I don't know if everyone in here is familiar with the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. Anyone? Interesting. So the doctrine of the lesser magistrates is the doctrine upon which the 10th Amendment of the Constitution has been founded on. It is the doctrine of what's called interposition, right? Whereby the Constitution is a document that protects the people. Any rights that are not given to the federal government are reserved to who? The people. That's the 10th Amendment. So what that says, it's reserved to the states, right? It's reserved to the states. And so if our local leaders then are supposed to step between a tyrannical federal government and its citizens, and they're supposed to protect the rights of the citizens. That's why the states are autonomous and we have sovereignty, and the states can increase, if the federal government sets basic guidelines, the states can impose greater laws in order to protect its citizens if necessary. If our local leaders fail to interpose themselves, step between that federal government and its citizens and protect its rights, then the rights go back to the people. That is the doctrine of interposition. You step between the invading force and the people, and you protect them. That is the doctrine of the lesser magistrates. A magistrate is someone that stands under the authority of another authority. In this country, like I said before, we are a democratic republic. And so the people stand under the authority of God. And the government operates within the authority that we have given them. The 9th Amendment is one that the courts try to stay far away from, because the 9th Amendment says that any rights that have not been enumerated specifically in the Constitution are given back to the people. So oftentimes you'll hear, I know it happened when New York abolished religious exemption, the commissioner said that, medical exemptions, religious exemptions are not written into the Constitution. It doesn't need to be. If it's not enumerated in there, then it goes back to the people. And in actuality, it stands under the right to freely practice your religion. And so these are the terms, the play on terms that they try to use, and they rest upon our ignorance. So I implore you to become informed. I implore you to get even more involved, just like General Flynn and everyone has been calling you. This is a call to action. This is a charge. This is not come here, get information, go home and sit on it. This is each one reach one to teach one. Spread the information, spread the knowledge, reach out. You are all my brothers and sisters. Get off the TV, mainstream media. Don't allow race to separate us and divide us. The only one that benefits from that is the government. They're the only ones that benefit from it. We, the people, run this country. We, the people, have the authority. We are magistrates. The doctrine of the lesser magistrates is what founded this country Take back your seat. Take back your positions. We are in charge, and we will not give up this country. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. And I will keep you posted. We need signatures. I don't know how, if we can get signatures. I don't know if we can direct them to somewhere to sign to get signatures of everyone.
To get signatures, what we're going to do here, first off, we're going to go ahead and we'll have updates throughout the day on this. We're actually doing this right now. But Devin's building a page. If you pull it up, it's timetofreeamerica.com, okay, / New York Attorney General. She has her own little permalink right there, okay? So it's the timetofreeamerica.com / New York